Old opinions, new agendas, new petitions, same violence, different victims. Come back soon, something's wrong with this system. More than the hate for the skin that they see, more than turning a blind eye to people like me. There's no love anymore, we gotta do more. Don't be afraid of me. Don't reject me when I tell you I come bearing good news. Please don't shoot the messenger. Don't attack the messenger. Systems may fail, but Jesus won't fail you. Please don't shoot the messenger. Don't attack the messenger. Nations divided, governed by fear. I think the last days are very near. Earthquakes and sickness, you already knew that. False teachers, false prophets, we gotta go through that. Why, Lord, why is it so easy to take another life? We gotta pray, gotta intercede, so that my brother, my sister can still believe when I tell you that I come bearing good news. Please don't shoot the messenger. Don't attack the messenger. Systems may fail, but Jesus won't fail you. Please don't shoot the messenger. Don't attack the messenger. The God that we serve died for you. Please don't shoot the messenger. Don't attack the messenger. And it grieves him when his child is gone too soon. So I'm begging you, please don't shoot the messenger. No, no, no.
Right, give it up for Stephen Bankole-Wright. And give it up for the house band. Hey, the Roots ain't got nothing on you, I tell you. Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone to the 2022 University Writing Center Distinguished Public Lecture. I didn't want to get that wrong. Featuring the incomparable, The Force for Good in This World propaganda. My name's Noemi Hernandez-Alexander. I am Assistant Professor of Political Science, History and Government here at CBU. I also get to chair or co-chair the Racial Equity Task Force here at the university. The task force is a co-sponsor of tonight, and also its members are supporting this event with their time and their talent. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you to what we anticipate to be an impactful night tonight. In tonight's program, some special people made it possible. So we want to express some special thanks to Dr. Chuck Sands, the provost, Dr. Tae Sung, the visionary for tonight, the man who created this vision and who is currently executing that vision. It is an honor to do so alongside you, my brother. Dr. Steve Nielsen of the Office of Student Success, Dr. Josh Bolin, who graciously opened up this gorgeous space for us out of the School of Music, and Dr. Robin Duncan from the School of Education. The Rev. Dr. Charles Lee Johnson, Department of Social Work, and Dr. John Montgomery, Associate Vice President for Student Services. We are grateful to all of our sponsors and to California Baptist University, a university committed to the Great Commission, where we are all encouraged to live our purpose. So before we continue with tonight's program, I'd like to share a little bit about the mission of the Racial Equity Task Force, which exists to provide recommendations to the university leadership on ways in which we can honor diversity and extend equity and access where it is needed. We are committed to approaching diversity, equity, and belonging from a framework of biblical justice. This year, CBU adopted its first diversity statement. This is the foundation upon which we build a more united CBU from every nation, tribe, and tongue. Tonight will be the first night we read our diversity statement in a public forum. You can follow along with us by scanning your QR code on the back of your program or the program description for those of you who are watching online. It will take you to the Writing Center's link tree, and that's where you will be able to be connected to the diversity statement so you can follow along. So while you are pulling that up, I would like you to please give a warm welcome to my brother, Damon Horton, Assistant Professor and Director of the Intercultural Studies Program.
Thank you so much. What a privilege and joy it is to be here. CBU is committed to pursuing multicultural and multi-ethnic diversity, equity, and access through our core four in the following ways: that we would be biblically rooted. CBU believes that the Great Commandment is the foundation of a multicultural, multi-ethnic university. Loving God and loving neighbor are inseparable, and they are the heart of ensuring biblical justice. Academically prepared is our second. CBU seeks to demonstrate multicultural and multi-ethnic diversity within each academic discipline to prepare students for effective and impactful service anywhere in the world God calls them to. Number three is that they would be equipped to serve. CBU empowers students, staff, and faculty to love and serve the marginalized and the vulnerable of society, understanding that those who do actually love and serve Jesus Christ do this naturally in obedience to his word. And finally, that we would be globally minded. CBU encourages students, faculty, and staff to be world Christians who recognize, celebrate, and draw upon the wealth of multicultural and multi-ethnic diversity. The Lancer Nation is a kingdom-minded community, sensitive to and understanding of cultural and ethnic differences, and thankful for the blessings that these God-given differences can bring in this life, but also in eternity. And if you're physically able, would you please stand with me as I have the privilege of reading our diversity statement for the first time, followed by a prayer, by a written prayer, since that is the focus of our writing center, that it impacts generations long beyond the physical life of the author, but our North African church father, Augustine. The CBU diversity statement says, as a university committed to the Great Commission through Christ, California Baptist University acknowledges, celebrates, and works towards the unity of every nation, tribe, and people and language. CBU stands against cultural and ethnic injustice, intolerance, and inequity while promoting diversity, equity, and access through biblical justice as described in Matthew 25, verses 35 through 40. CBU is committed with a steadfast devotion to the gospel to be a campus of multicultural and multi-ethnic diversity that serves as a paragon of equity and access in the context of biblical justice that compels students, faculty, and staff to love and serve others, including those who are marginalized. Would you pray with me, please? The prayer of our North African church father, Augustine. Too late have I loved you, O beauty so ancient, O beauty so new. Too late have I loved you. You were within me, But I was outside of myself, and there I sought you. In my weakness, I ran after the beauty of the things you have made. You were with me, and I was not with you. The things you have made kept me from you. The things which would have no being unless they existed in you. You have called, you have cried, and you have pierced my deafness. You have radiated forth, you have shined out brightly, and you have dispelled my blindness. You have sent forth your fragrance, and I have breathed it in, and I long for you. I have tasted you, and I hunger and thirst for you. You have touched me, and I desire your peace. We pray this prayer in the name of God our Father, our Savior Jesus, and God the Holy Spirit, our abiding activist. In Jesus' name, amen.
Good evening. I am Robin Duncan. I serve as the Dean of the School of Education here at CBU. In just a moment, we're going to get to the main event for tonight, which will be a conversation between Dr. Tae Sung, Associate Professor of English and Dean of Student Success, and our 2022 Distinguished Public Lecturer, Propaganda. Would you both join me here in the front now? Tonight, we are honored to have Propaganda return to CBU for this special event. The first time he came was after releasing his 6th album, Crooked, to perform in 2017 during Welcome Weekend when the Event Center first opened. Since then, he's been very busy. He's released 2 podcasts, one more recently called Hood Politics with Prop, and an earlier one called the Red Couch Podcast with his wife, Dr. Alma Zaragoza-Petty, whom you will have a chance to meet later tonight. Then, last year in 2021, Propaganda published his first book, Terraform, Building a Better World, which is the subject of our conversation today. In response to this multi-genre and dynamic book, Jeff Chu asked this: what is this book? Is it poetry, prose, wild ramblings, social commentary, inspiration, provocation? Yes to all of it. Yes to Prop's beautiful, fateful imagination and to his sharp-eyed, open-hearted observation of the world around us. Yes to his gorgeous call to dream, to cherish, to remember, to breathe, and to love. Also, William Matthews has written in response that the culture is at an inflection point, and we need voices that can rightly interpret the times. Voices that can inspire humanity to move forward. In walks Propaganda with the fire of a black prophet and a tongue sharp like a sword, ready to do the painstaking work of terraforming our souls. Terraform is gritty, masterful, and wholly transcendent. Near the end of his book, Propaganda then summarizes his main points, and we'll quote you here, in this way. The point of all this poetry and prose is to make us aware of what we've already been doing, the world we've been making, for good or bad, and challenge us to be better. And an important part of that work is building a better culture, something I, Propaganda, learned a lot about from William Wilberforce and the Clapham set. These are the folks responsible for not only ending slavery in the United Kingdom, but they are also the reason that prisoners get 3 meals a day and outside time. They believed that virtue sits upstream from politics and culture. That line, I'm going to say that one more time. They believe that virtue sits upstream from politics and culture. Propaganda continues. This is not me, this is you. And who truly communicates a virtue that then informs politics and culture? Artists. Art informs culture, and then culture makes the human. But culture is also just humans trying to learn how to live together. Building a livable world, it's terraforming. Well said. Yeah. As an artist, Propaganda's true virtue has been to remain faithful to the prophetic imagination and call, even when it has been unrecognized or misunderstood, to remind himself that recognition is not the same thing as worth. something we could all be reminded of in our hyper self-promotion culture that we live in. Propaganda says he keeps a list of artists who have never won a Grammy. That list includes legends like Diana Ross, Queen, Morrissey, and Tupac. Keeping this list, he says, is his way of avoiding the comparison trap. But tonight, you know what, Propaganda? The rest of us might be the ones in danger of that comparison trap. We're still believing the Grammy may come. But in the meantime, tonight, we want to recognize you for your worth and by presenting you the 2022 Distinguished Writer Award from California Baptist University. Please join me in congratulating.
You gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, you gotta be stronger. You gotta be cool, you gotta be calm, you gotta stick together. All I know is love will save the day.
Good evening. We are so delighted to have you all join us for this special conversation with Prop tonight. The mission of the University Writing Center here at CBU is to cultivate purpose-driven writers, communicators, and influencers, which is really about something much bigger than just helping students with their writing assignments. Now, that's our bread and butter. We do that too, right? To provide services and resources to help CBU students succeed. But the reason why we do all of that is to try to produce purpose-driven writers who can communicate clearly and persuasively, right? And in case you didn't already know, let me tell you, it's one of the keys to unlocking your influence and making a difference in the world. I mean, how many people have you met who might have the right answer or a great idea, but can't get anyone on board because they can't communicate it to save their life? You know what I mean? Ain't that the truth?
Yeah.
Right, so each year, we want to bring in a distinguished guest who reflects this mission. And if you haven't already yet come across Prop's music, spoken word, his book, all I gotta say is, where you been hiding at, bro? Because I'll sometimes open the newspaper or magazine, right, and there he is being interviewed, right? Right? Or a podcast too. He just pops up in my feed, right? And check this out. The Super Bowl, yeah, he's there too, right? Chilling in the DJ box at the Super Bowl, right? At SoFi Stadium, right? I don't know if you knew that. And then you try to follow his feed, right? And one day he's out in Tennessee with a bunch of white folk doing some like corporate boards, something stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like campfire stuff out there.
White people stuff. Yeah. That's because he knows what I mean.
Yeah. And then another day, he's out zooming around Colombia or Ethiopia, all up in the coffee business, right? What they call you a unicorn, was that right?
Yeah.
Right? You know, I'm going to read that first paragraph in the book, and we'll get started with the conversation here. This is the first page of Terraform, right? And it begins like this. Who names a book Terraform? Sheesh. My friends say I'm a unicorn. What son of a Black Panther who speaks Spanish and enjoys a good Sufjan Stevens song also knows what the lick red means? I can politic about politics, superlapsarianism, why Brooklyn can claim to be the coolest uncle of hip-hop, the cooling temperature of magma, and the Magna Carta. I can tell you how and when Gandalf went from the gray to the white, who was the second king of ancient Mali, and the difference between South American and African coffee by smell. My friend Lecrae once said, yo, Prop the type of dude to on Juneteenth eat a fried catfish taco with a craft beer. And Prop says, I was shook at how accurate that was. They say unicorn, I say striving to be fully earthling. I love that last night, right? That's so good. We're going to get to the message of Terraform here in just a sec, but tell us what you mean by that, right? They say unicorn, but I say striving to be fully earthling. What's that all about?
Yeah, man, first of all, thanks. Y'all, this is, I don't take compliments well, so I'm like, dude, thanks so much. Gotta go home. Striving to be fully earthling. I think just the world, like culture, food, music, just travel, like there's so much, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And I just think to myself, the amount of things that even in my lifetime that I won't be able to experience that humans experience, and if I think about, just the privilege, the opportunity to understand more about the experience, I'm like, I feel like that makes me more earthling. You know what I mean? It's more human. I guess to get, I'm surprised I'm going already to get theological, but like, when God created humans, it was to be fully human. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, so in my mind, I'm like, what does that mean? What do you mean fully human? You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, well, it's part of the human experience I've never experienced. I want to experience it. Who has that? What is that like? C.S. Lewis was talking about reading gives you like 1,000 eyes. You know what I'm saying? That you can like, rather than seeing just through my own, like I can see through everybody else's eyes. And I'm like, what? You know what I'm saying? So to me, it's like, once you taste something, once you experience something that's outside of something that's normal to you, and then start seeing yourself in that, you know what I'm saying? To me, it's like, that's when it's like, oh my gosh, that's what it means to be human. Like, that's beautiful. You feel me?
Yeah. Because we live in a time, an era where people can predict, right, how you're going to vote based upon the music you listen to, right? We're predictive analytics, right? There's a whole industry, big data, all that stuff. And I feel like we're so content sometimes to be, just carrying our labels and things like that. But for you, there's something about being fully earthling, fully human that violates all those labels.
Bro, categories. It was like when I think to myself, I don't know if y'all know our history. Like, we actually went to high school together. Yeah. But I haven't seen him since then. So like,
this is our 25-year reunion right here. Rancho Cucamonga High School.
Yeah,
Cougars.
Dude, go Cougars, right? So a lot of that taste for that kind of came from that experience, because if you are familiar with music, I'm from South Central. And then after that, I spent most of my life in like Belinda La Puente, 626. Y'all seen the tattoos? I got the 626. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I grew up with like Mexicans and Filipinos. So I grew up in this whole other sort of environment that already from jump, not being in my family of origins hood, I already was being aware that like, oh my God, there's other way to look at things. You know what I'm saying? There's other ways, like, when somebody puts some tripas in front of you, you like, oh, those are chitlins. Ain't they chitlins? You know what I'm saying? Y'all fry y'all chitlins, you know what I'm saying? So like little things like that, you're just, you exactly. It's like, but that's what I mean by you see yourself. You're like, oh, y'all was poor too. You know, so then you take that, my parents split, and I'm spending my time, you know, obviously Rancho had the better high school than, you know, where I was living. So, like, you split your time in both of those things, and
I remember you were like that in high school, too. I mean, I have very distinct memories of you, right?
Yeah.
You know, high school was, you know, everything's divided, right? Where you sat determined your social group and this and that. You got the jocks over here, you got whatever, right? All the different groups. But Jason Prop was one of those people that would just be like, he'd be here one day, there another day, right? And all in the midst of all that, right, trying to walk out your faith.
Yeah.
And, you know, I didn't get saved until I was in college. But one of the figures and images that haunted me was you, right?
Crazy.
I remember one time, like, we were, like, walking down the hall. And I'm like, Jason, where are you going? And you were like, Cougars for Christ.
Yes.
And I was like, what?
I was trying, y'all. Look, I was trying. Listen, like,
you know?
Yes, I was, like, I mean, again, like, I was such a, like, you have to understand, like, to my DNA, I was, like, a b-boy, backpacker, MC, like, rapidy rap, you know what I'm saying? Like, because for me, like, my story's a lot different than a lot of other, like, Christian rappers. I'm like, hip-hop saved my life. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have this, like, well, I'm gonna redeem rap for Jesus. I'm like, rap saved me. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I see it different. You know what I'm saying? That being said, you know, you in your youth group, and they're like, well, you know, you gotta go to the Christian club. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna try. You know what I'm saying? So, like, for me, I was like, legit, like, it's so funny, like, seeing what that must have been like out. Because in my head, I'm like, I should go, right? Like, I'm a Christian, I should go. You know what I'm saying? But anyway.
But it wasn't even about you going to the club or the Christian club or anything like that. It was who you were.
You know what I'm saying?
You know, Prop was a John the Baptist, right, kind of figure, even in high school, right?
Dude,
you could tell he was like searching, looking for something real, something authentic. And so you go from there off to college.
Yeah.
And what was that like? Because you're going around all these different groups. You're hanging out with the skaters, right?
Yeah.
You know, different crowds.
Yeah, Rancho really sparked that, man.
Yeah.
Like going again, being a fish out of water, like it taught me to like have to find your way in a place that's like not necessarily made for you. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, it is what it is. Let me find joy. Let me find beauty. You know what I mean? And I found it in places, you know, that I didn't think I would. I was telling a story backstage with him. Like, there was this kid that was, I don't think he went to our high school. I think he went to another one. His name was Chester Chin. And Chinese immigrant. I remember I went to his house one day after school, and he was like, hey, this is what we do. And, you know, he lit his incense. And I was like, I know incense, you know, but it's different. You know what I mean? So he lit his incense, you know, and he did the traditional, like, honor your ancestors, and he bowed to the picture. And I remember being like, we not supposed to do that. You know what I'm saying? I remember thinking that, but at the same time having a real sense of, like, I think this is a holy moment. Like, I remember young enough knowing, like, yo, this is an ancient practice that this man is participating in that spans longer than anything that I know. So I just remember having a sense of like, I think this is important. I think this is holy, you know? And that like, kind of like that like sort of breaks your categories of like what's safe and what's not safe, what's holy and what's unholy. Like that was one of the first moments that I went, wait, you know, and that, I'm getting to the college question. That was like, oh, dog, okay, I'm going to join the Filipino Student Association. Like, I'm going to join it. You know what I mean? Like, yo, because I'm like, something else going on here. I'm going to join the, I want to, like, if you know Rancho, it's like, they're Tongan, they're not Samoan. And I didn't understand why they didn't like each other. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I don't know, y'all all giants to me. So I'm like, what is it? Like, you know what I'm saying? So just like that curiosity and understanding, like, you know, you around like these Filipino culture, understanding what they think about family, and I'm like, that makes sense to me. Like, I understand that, you know what I'm saying?
Because even beyond, what you're saying is even beyond the question of what's right or wrong, what's holy or not holy, you recognize something even in those different practices.
Yeah, and I think getting to your, like in college, it was like the freedom of, and it took me a while to really realize that's what I was doing, but it was like the freedom of not having to have it figured out. like to know what that thing is or to be able to answer what I was experiencing. Like I felt like college was, I was at the place, because, I mean, they're supposed to lose your faith in college. You know what I'm saying? It's the culture war. You're gonna walk away from Jesus. And I was like, I just wasn't my experience. Like for me, it was more like these people, they got 300 students they teaching. They're not worried about where I go on Sunday. They just got a job to do. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, you mean to tell, I probably shouldn't say this on a college campus, but I was like, to me, I was like, oh, you're gonna tell me what to write on this paper, and I just need to give it back to you. And I just need to decide in my head what's beautiful to me. Like, so I chose my classes, who I hung with. I was like, I know now that's what it was. At first I was like, I just think that's dope. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna take that class because that's dope to me. That seems interesting. And I realized what was happening was like that moment all the way back in high school where it was like, when you get a whiff or a sense of something that's beautiful, that you're like, this is transcendent. I don't know what it is. I don't understand it. But I'm like, I know if it's that beautiful, to me, I'm like, it's gotta be divine because it's popping up everywhere. Yeah. So I realized for me, I was like, that's what I was hunting for. I was hunting for that beauty,
It's that imago Dei.
That imago Dei, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, and what I found was like, from college all the way into my career and into what's in this book is like, you just, the best parts to me is like, is when you spot that imago Dei in places that it ain't supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? It ain't supposed to be as like, obviously, what I'm saying is like a play on words about like some of our theological frameworks. You know what I'm saying? The ways for which we have been given to understand what that beauty is. Sometimes it be showing up in places it ain't supposed to. You know what I'm saying? And then so that's one of the things in the book. You left with one question. You know what I'm saying? You gotta either change your math or you change your philosophy. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, the math ain't mathing. So if the math ain't mathing, do I keep working the math or do I say I'm thinking about this all wrong? Yeah. You know what I mean? And for me, that's what it was. I was like, yo, this is bigger than I ever thought it was, you know? Yeah. And I just stayed curious, all through college. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, we're living in a time where, there's so much division. Yeah. Right? We are divided by our politics. We're divided by our tribes, And what you're saying to me tonight, what you're telling all of us is that sometimes those boundaries, right, can prevent us from finding beauty, from seeing the image of God, even in the very places where, and the people with whom we disagree with, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's that, like, those lines are made up, man. Yeah. And not even by us. Like, somebody told you was that box. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then decided, since they drew a line around you and was like, I'm drawing this line around you, which means I understand you. And I'm like, well, you drew that line. I didn't. You know what I mean? So for me, it was like, I was like, you don't get to define. That's not your role. That's not your place. You know what I mean? Like, so if that's the case, if I reject the border, you feel me? Yeah. Then I don't have to toe the line because I reject the border. Yeah. Does that make sense? So I feel like the way I've even thought about, specifically, like my politics and stuff like that is like, you have to reject the border. If I can give a quick story, this was in Morocco. Again, it's one of those things where you're just like, I think it reminds me of like the blind guy Jesus healed, when essentially they were like, that wasn't supposed to happen. He not supposed to be that. And the blind dude was like, look, I don't know what to tell you. This morning I couldn't see. Y'all work that out. I don't know what to tell you. You know what I'm saying? So I had one of those moments in Morocco where I'm sitting. It's a Muslim country, it's Muslim community, and they just understand, the Middle East, like, Arab nations, they understand hospitality better than all of us. You know what I'm saying? So like, the Jeep stuck in a sand trap. You know what I mean? Everybody come out. This is Morocco. Everybody come out. Whole village come out. Push the thing out. You know what I'm saying? And one dude was like, "Hey, I actually got to go to the market. Can I catch a ride?" And I'm like, "Yo, I'm from South Central Los Angeles. You can't just hop in the whip." You know what I mean? They're like, "Yeah." So it's fine. So they take it in. We go to the place. The dude was like, hey, do you want like, because he saw like all my jewelry, he's like, you want to buy some like bracelets and stuff? I was like, yeah. He goes, hey, let's go over here. We go over there, and in the store, the dude was like, let's have some tea. So we're like slowing down. We're just like having this moment. Everybody's strangers. Yeah. But we're all just kind of sitting down and have this moment. And I just remember being like, I just feel like the Holy Spirit's here. I'm like, this is, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I thought this couldn't happen. Yeah. You know, but you're in a moment and it's happening, and I'm like, so what do? Do I, you know what I'm saying? It's, you know, use your Old Testament. It's Apollos. It's, you know what I'm saying? Like, Greeks ain't supposed to be believers. I don't know, but I'm looking at one. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, what do you want me to say? You know, it's Peter on the roof. Like, rise and eat. Like, you're not supposed to eat that. You know what I'm saying? Well, that's right. I don't know what to tell you. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like, for me, that, like, continued to sort of shape my worldview, my writing, you know what I mean, and my faith. Is just like, look, dude, like, I'm going to continue to have those moments, you know what I'm saying, where I just have to rethink my math or rethink my philosophy.
And it really points to the redemptive possibilities in all cultures, right? Yeah. That sometimes even before we go out and preach the gospel, right, and anybody come and respond to that, that's where the Spirit is already at work, you know,
it's already
in so
there,
many
man.
ways. So, yeah.
It's already, like, that's, I can't tell you how many times, like, I'm like, I'll give another story. This one didn't make it in the book. I cut it out. But there was this moment I was in New York. I was passing through Central Park, and I saw this dude that was clearly there on their, like, church, like, street evangelism moment, right? So he's talking to this, like, Rasta, right? And and I'm like, oh, that fool's finna, homie, he finna wear you out, dog. Like, so he talking to him, and then the guy goes, so why do you think Jesus came? And the dude goes, to conquer death. Yeah. And I was like, hey, bro. Hey, you should walk away, big dog. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, you outclassed, homie. You know what I'm saying? So all that to say is like if you're already on a search for beauty, you know what I'm saying? You already, like, again, like when you know what you're looking for, I don't care what the community is, queer, like whatever it is, if you want to search for beauty, once you spot it, it's like I can't deny. I mean, it's right there. What you want me to say? You want me to act like it's not right there? It's right there. You know, so yeah, and that's the beauty of, like you said, that Imago Dei, that fingerprint, that redemption, that, like, yo, man, like, it's already happening. It's already there. Like, just, and the beauty is not so much, like, to me, you gotta, like, forcefully bring it in per se, but just more like, yo, it's already there, dog. Like, you good. Like, it's there. You get to participate. It's like I get to be a part of the story. You feel me? And, like, and to me, if it's like that, then I'm like, yo, then I'm just gonna keep being on this Where's Waldo for beauty, you know? Yeah.
That's beautiful. Let's get to the book. Yeah.
Let's get to the book.
All right. So terraform.
Yes.
What's that word mean? Right.
So
where did it come from?
Science fiction. Any science fiction nerds? Yeah. Word. It's when you find a distant planet in the process of making that planet livable. It's called terraforming.
That's what Elon Musk is trying to do.
That's what he's trying to do up in Mars. Right. You know what I'm saying? Which I wrote about. Because that was such a strange moment. But yeah, so I just thought to myself, like, you know, first of all, like, earlier back, let me back up a little bit. My manager, he had asked me, like, hey, dude, what do you want to talk about for the next 10 years? It's like, yo, 10 years? So I was like, this has to be a bigger, I'm like, oh, this is like an opus then. This is like, you asking me what my life's work is. You know what I'm saying? Like, you talking about 10 years. Yeah. So my thought was that it needs to be big enough and broad enough where I can hang a lot of who I am and all I, like, want to see in the world into. So that's where the term was, this is big enough, because it's again, it's like, if I say, you know, if terraforming is the physical part of the land, I was like, well, what if I use that as not only physical, but also, you know, mental, cultural, our family ties, our relationships, like all, saw it all as, like, terraforming projects, which is the process, again, making something livable, you know what I mean? And if, like you said, you brought up our politics, like obviously it's becoming less and less livable, you know, our culture, the actual earth, you know what I'm saying?
Even our own families sometimes, our churches, right?
All of it, less and less livable, you know what I'm saying? So like, I just thought like that would be a great like creative jumping point. So then the next point from that is like, okay, so then if this is where we are, then how did we get here? And I was like, well, we did that too. That was also terraforming, you know what I'm saying? So I was like, oh, so that didn't exist in nature either? Like, there's no tree called Marxism, you know what I'm saying? Like, we made it up, you know what I mean? There's no force field on the 49th parallel that separates Canada from it. It's made up.
So the culture we're always complaining about
we
is a
made
reflection
it up.
of us.
We made it up.
Yeah.
So if we made it up and it's not serving us, then we should make something else up. It just seemed that simple to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Now, I don't know what that thing is, you know what I mean? But I think that's the collective project. That's where it's like everybody's invited in. Well, like, let's all put our heads together, because I'm like, yo, what we got, this ain't working. I don't know if you know. Maybe it's working for 3 of y'all, but like, there's 8 billion of us, you know? Yeah.
But you know, one of the keys to Terraform that you talk about in the book is the importance of language.
Yes.
Right? And how the language we use has a way of shaping the culture we live in, right? The words we use create the worlds we live in. Tell us about that connection between language and culture, words and worlds.
I think that's one of those things that, like, you know, it's just nobody ever pointed at, like, how much the things your parents spoke to you, you know, that ex-boo thing that told you your ears look weird, you know what I'm saying? That for the rest of your life, you've always looked at your ears, you know what I'm saying? Like, that, like, you haven't seen that fool in 10 years. That's the only person that ever said that to you, you know what I'm saying? Right. But that, like, I think, again, it's just nobody ever pointed at it, that's what's happening, you know what I'm saying? So I think when you examine, like, what's happening in yourself, start realizing, yo, that's what we've been doing as a nation and as a culture, as a person, you know? And so culturally speaking, when we think about sort of the terms that we're using, and a good writer is, and sometimes a bad writer is oftentimes doing it on accident, but like a good writer or a good speaker is, I'm using these terms on purpose because I know what they invoke, you know what I'm saying? And things like illegal alien, you know, like, that's invoking something, you know what I'm saying? You know, that you've made a person something separate from you. So if there's something separate from you, then I get to judge whether this is a good illegal alien or a bad illegal alien. And I'm like, well, who? So it's the terms, you know what I'm saying? Like, those are words that kind of like shape the way that you do this. And then at some point you start like accepting those, because if you say them long enough, you feel me, then you start accepting them as like, that's just what it is, right? I use this, I'm going back to a term I said earlier, like I said Middle Eastern cultures, and I'm like, well, compared to what? It's only in the middle if you center Europe, you know what I'm saying? That's what makes the Middle East the East. What you're saying is the globe is flat and Europe's in the center. That's why we're the Western world, and that's the Eastern world, is because Europe's in the middle. It's a sphere, though. How the hell is it in the middle? There is no middle. You know what I'm saying? So, but we're still using those terms. You see what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying, like, it shapes world. Like, in your own language, you centered Europe. Yeah. You feel me? So I'm like, so those types of just awarenesses of not only what I'm saying to each other, or not only what I'm saying to myself, but what I'm saying to each other, and then what we say to ourselves as a nation. I gave an example of, like, our meritocracy myth, like what we believe about America, that our cute little nose is better than everybody else's nose, right? We're like the world's teenager, you know what I'm saying? Like, none of it can happen to us, you know what I'm saying? That's just what we believe, but we done figured it out, you feel me? Our Constitution's like an OS1 iPhone, and we're still swearing. This is the best one ever, you know what I'm saying? Like, everybody done upgraded, you know what I'm saying? But we got an iPhone, you feel me? I'm like, you got a 1, bro. It's not even a camera on the back. You feel me? But we got it, you know what I'm saying? But like, so All that to say, think about like our idea of like the meritocracy myth. This is what we believe about Americans. If you work hard, you succeed. That's our story, right? But all of y'all know that's ridiculous. You trying to tell me the dude cutting the grass outside ain't working harder than you? Right now, that person working harder than you, but you sitting here listening to a lecture. You in school, he not. He working harder than you though. All y'all got jobs where you know this fool in Suite 4C can't even spell. Homie make more than you though. And you like, I don't know why. Well, I don't know why. He just was at the right place at the right time. He was at the right cocktail party. He cracked the right joke. You feel me? And not as so you know that's not true. But this is the story we told ourselves. You know what I'm saying? So like those words, those stories, those narratives we tell ourselves, believe it or not, they shape the way we think about any and everything. There's an anthropological, you like that? Words. Anthropological question around what's an uncle and why do we have them? Your mom's sister, your mom's brother. What that man got to do with you? Well, in a hunter-gatherer society, you need to have familiar ties so that I can know you're not gonna feed me a poison berry. You feel me? But what about that dude's son? Okay, that's your cousin? Why? From what I know about cousins, they only cause trouble. You only get in trouble with cousins. You know what I'm saying? I don't know why we have them. That person has nothing to do with me. Just because you related to my mom's, why? We made it. We needed it. We made it up. It's for survival. You know what I'm saying? But that's us. Like we did that. You feel me? So when you understand, but that person, listen, I'll take a bullet for my cousin. I shaped my life. Like what do you mean that's my uncle? What if your parents were both only children? You don't have cousins. Isn't that weird? There's some people that don't have cousins. You don't have cousins. That's so weird. But that's what I'm trying to say. I can't even imagine it, right? But I'm like, that can't. So I'm like, oh, it's us. Oh, we're doing that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, at this point, familiar ties serve us. They serve us well. Yeah. You know, but we've all grown from it. How many people not related to you that you like, that's my brother, that's my sister? Yeah. Not related to you. That's my family. Because we made it up, guys. Like you can make the rules. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. So the culture we live in is a reflection of our language, our words, the metaphors, right? Yeah. The stories we've told ourselves, whether it's a meritocracy or the American dream. Yeah. And that story works for some people, right? But in the end, all stories are kind of partial, right?
Yeah, I'd even love to step in here. It's like, this isn't saying anything is true or not true. That's not even what any of this particular conversation is concerned about, whether this is true or false. That's the wrong question. You know, true or not true doesn't change the effects it has on us as people. You feel me? Like, I read I'm pretty sure you would know who Peter Barger is. Barger?
Peter Berger.
Berger,
yeah.
Berger.
Oh, yeah. Sacred Canopy.
Sacred Canopy.
Yeah.
He gave an example of, like, if you were to ask a tropical fish if they could talk, like, what do they think of, like, the waters of the deep, the Arctic waters of the deep? And if they could talk, the answer would probably be, what's water? Right. You just in it. Like, fish know they in water. Like, I don't, that's just the world. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That's just what it is. So I think that, like, again, the veracity of the thing, the trueness or falseness is not the point. The point is how it shaped the way you see yourself and see the world.
Yeah. And the culture, we're swimming in the culture like
the
fish are swimming in the ocean, right?
Yeah.
Now, the difference with human beings is that we can actually reflect back on this thing that we're swimming in, that we've created. That's a reflection of our imaginations. Yeah. The words, right? Instead of calling something half empty, right?
Yeah.
Half full. Like for me,
Yeah.
that's just a little bit, it's a shift in words,
Yeah.
right? But it's a total different mindset
Yeah.
in how we live our lives,
Yeah.
right? And it's, I used to tell my students all the time, like I ask them, can you change the past? Right? And they all look at me like, because they think it's a trick question, right?
Yeah.
They know I'm setting them up, right? And they're like, no, obviously not. And I say, why not?
Yeah.
Right? Now, of course, we can't change the facts of our past.
Yeah.
But what we can change what the past means to us by reinterpreting it, right?
Yeah.
How we tell the story can shape the way that it affects us. This is what we do in therapy.
Yeah.
Right? This is what happens in pastoral counseling, right?
Yeah.
So the facts that have defined our lives, right? I used to tell one story about my relationship with my father.
Yeah.
And when I grew up, right, I started realizing, I got to tell a different story,
Yeah.
right? Once I had kids
Yeah.
of my own,
Yeah.
right?
Changes everything.
And all of a sudden, I'm telling a different story that all of a sudden changes even the way that I feel about my dad,
Yeah.
right? And that all of that, nothing's changed in terms of the facts.
Yeah.
But how I tell the story can change that.
Absolutely.
Do you have a spoken word, something that can maybe like, if we ain't careful, right? About how,
Yeah.
the way that we talk about things, think about things might shape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
All right,
one
let's
fit that
do
a
that.
little
Yeah,
more.
yeah. You guys want to hear some spoken word?
I'll do some poetry.
Yeah, okay.
How smooth was that transition, though? Give it up for Tae. It was boozy. I was like, Tae from ASB? Like, it's a doctor, like, at CBU? What? So crazy. All right. Okay, so in 2017, for 2 minutes and 30 seconds, we were on Pangea. One land, one nation, one planet. And I and my ancestors were the same age, 2 minutes, 30 seconds. We saw how small we are. We saw how privileged we are to see how small we are. We saw black was beautiful, and if you just let black be black and it blocks out the light reveals the brilliance it didn't even know it had. We should trust black more. And mixed metaphors can speak volumes. The planet knew we needed it. We were 2 days away from Nazis marching on American soil, spitting the most vile irony on the American myths, the greatest generation rhetoric. We were 3 days away from cars, driving into peace, white lives matter, blood and soil, appropriated Polynesian mosquito repellent turned white hood, tiki torches turned burnt crosses, frat boy uniforms in all khaki, which were kind of funny though. 2 days ago, we were one planet, 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Our perspective was orbital. And wouldn't you know it, when you look back down at the ground from space, the word America ain't written across the ground. It don't look like our maps. Streaked across the globe, streamed revolution televised, Bend, Oregon highways turned into one-ways to support the traffic. Kim Jong was singing Bob Marley. Vlad, he done French kissed Trump. Ta-Nehisi and Cornell squashed their beef. Biggie and Tupac did a song together. Stormy Daniels and the Prophet Daniel drank Thunderbird. Weinstein thought twice about unzipping. Elvis and swing dancing finally admitted to being appropriators and gentrifiers. And Meek was set free early, 2 minutes, 30 seconds. I straightened my side eye at them silly little red hats and hippie white girls with hula hoops. Who cared about traffic on the 405s? Heavenly bodies just showed off their curves. Beautiful stretch marks. Space can be so sexy. We let our appetite for destruction satiate for a second. Traded our guns for roses, 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Was you too cool for the glasses? Was you too stupid to not look directly at it? Did our president actually look directly at it after every expert said, don't look directly at it? Did you laugh? Hey, but you ever made out with somebody you know you shouldn't have? You ever touched something you know you wasn't supposed to touch? You ever seen an eclipse? You ever been to Stonehenge? You ever felt connected to Mayans and Druids at the same time? Dogons, Egyptians, Etruscans, Ethiopians, 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Have you ever experienced something that was so far above you and was going to happen whether you was there or not? Yet it felt like the entirety of the cosmos conspired just to show you something about yourself. 2 minutes, 30 seconds. I just hope to be around for the next one.
All right, let's give it up. 2 minutes, 30 seconds. The possibilities just in that time. Just in case somebody didn't catch it.
Yeah,
what's that about?
That was the full solar eclipse, and that's how long the sun was covered, was for 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And it's crazy because I was actually in the South Bay. I was driving on 405, and super slow, head out the window, like and I'm looking at all the other cars doing the same thing, and I'm like, this is so stupid, we should just pull over, right? So everybody just pulls over, and we're all just like looking at the sky. You know, it's 2017, you know what I'm saying? So like, block was hot then, you feel me? So I'm like, at that point, I'm like, dude, like for that moment, like we all stopped, you know what I'm saying? And again, that's why I keep going back to it, and experienced beauty. You know what I'm saying? That was, again, it was above us. It was going to happen. Whether we were watching or not, it was going to happen. But if we took a second and just be like, it just seemed like talking about anything else at that moment is silly. You know, having your eyes on anything else at that moment is like, oh, why would you be looking at anything else? Like, why would you be talking about anything else? Like, look at this beauty. And I was just thinking, man, that was a paradigm shift. I was like, what a better way to think about the world. Like, what a better way to go through life, to be like, and it's not so much like, you know, you do this to avoid.
It's not a form of escape.
It's not a form of escape.
Yeah.
It's more of a reflection of like, yo, there's a better way for us to be.
Right.
You feel me? There are things we need to deal with, you know what I'm saying? But in dealing with those things, again, I'm on the hunt for beauty.
Yeah.
You know, what's the like, I'm on the board of directors for another nonprofit, and one of the things that one of the counselors told us was like, look for usually like the most elegant solution is the way forward, and you gotta fight for it. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of struggle, it's a lot of fight to get through it. You're gonna break a lot of hearts. You know what I'm saying? And again, like, you know, some ideas are non-negotiables, like, you know what I'm saying? I'm sorry, all ideas aren't equal. Some are bad ideas, you know what I'm saying? So like, but there are a few non-negotiables, like my human dignity, you know what I'm saying? Like those, and your human dignity, that's a non-negotiable. So I'm like, so if there's a way to honor that in the most beautiful way, the most elegant way, like that's what I'm looking for. And I felt like that moment like made us stop and be like, yo, there is a possibility.
But you know what I love about what you just said right there is also this idea that sometimes we're so focused on changing the world around us, that we get lost because we don't look up.
Yeah.
Right? We don't look for those transcendent moments of design that breaks us out of what's possible, right?
Yeah.
And having that higher perspective has a way of bringing us back to the task.
There it is.
In opening up new possibilities, right?
Yeah, you know, just continuing that metaphor. So if we all get back in the car and drive off, and I'm like, I feel so connected to everybody on this freeway. Like, and I'm like, how many times
There's
you look?
shared experience.
Yeah, it's a shared experience. How many
Yeah.
times you drove on the freeway and you're like, I wonder where they're going.
Right.
I wonder who that is. I wonder what they do. You know what I'm saying? I was like, yo, we just all shared this thing. And I'm like, dude, I feel so close to you right now, you know? Yeah.
And so, you know, this idea that language and culture and words are all connected in a way. This is not just about, you know, storytelling and things like that. This has real-world implications. And at one point in the book, you wrote that, and you were talking about how all of this is about how we're called to love our neighbors, right? And you wrote, and there's a quote in the book that I want to read. It says, the antidote to empire isn't another empire, it's kingdom. What's the difference between those two things, and how might we begin to think about terraforming our world along kingdom principles rather than empire principles.
Yeah, so I'm using a motif. Of course, it's like monarchical, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't mean kingdom literally, you know what I'm saying? I'm just using it in a way of like, you know, not like there needs to be a king and only their son can rule. You know what I'm saying? That's not what I'm trying to say. But I am saying as you know, because language does fail us, you know what I'm saying? Like these are ways to compare these things. I think, yeah. If we're talking like sort of, is that my phone? No, okay. I think a good example for like, you know, history buffs, you know, Bible nerds, whatever, is Daniel's narrative of Babylon. You know what I'm saying? Babylon's an empire. You know, it's you conquer people, you bring them in to your sphere of influence, you know what I'm saying, and you create this stratified world that says that like this only works if these people are willing to do, you know, stuff that devalues who they are. You know what I'm saying? Like that's how you get the wealth, is you have to devalue somebody. You know what I'm saying? It's empires work, right? And there's certain ways to approach that, and some are like nicer emperors, you know what I mean? And some are not so nice emperors. The point is, it's a stratified world that's designed to feed sort of the middle thing, and you either assimilate, you succumb. It is what it is, right? So you take somebody like Daniel, who I think gives us a great example of the fact that like he kind of knew what were his non-negotiables, you know what I'm saying? And I think, so if you think to yourself, how did Babylon fall? Well, because of the Medo-Persians. Well, how did they fall? You know what I'm saying? And it's just because the Greeks, you know what I mean? And how they fall.
The next empire took
you know what I'm
over.
saying? It's just a series of empires, you know, landing to the American one, you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, what has changed? You know what I mean? So the answer can't just be another one taking over, because again, follow Daniel. He just worked for the next emperor, you know what I'm saying? Right? So that's not changing anything. But I think one thing he does is, again, like what are his non-negotiables? It's like you could change my name to Belshazzar. I mean, I don't care. You call me whatever you want. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's like, you can have that, sure. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's a power move, I guess. You know what I'm saying? He didn't have the same like hang-ups that a lot of us have, to where you're supposed to parachute out of culture and like, you know, only exist over in the mountains, or only go to like, you know, things that have deemed safe. He's like, nah, I work for Nebuchadnezzar. Not only do we work for him, he's his best employee. He probably earned that man a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I don't know if you ever thought about that. Like, Daniel was an earner. Like, Daniel made Babylon a lot of money. You know what I'm saying? Right? I don't know how that you feel conflicted about that. Again, I don't know what to tell you. That's what happened. You know what I'm saying? So, but he was like, it is what it is. I just work here. You know what I'm saying? Which I think in a lot of ways, maybe it's like a person of color situation. Like, I always just say black people, but I feel like our family ties are like so close that I don't need like work friends. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not gonna go get cocktails after, no. I just work here. You know what I'm saying? Like, we not friends. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, maybe that's just, yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so Daniel was like, yo, like, I'm not gonna eat what y'all eat. Like, I'll eat this, but I'm not really, because I don't need this. Like, y'all not, this ain't my kingdom. I just work here. You know what I mean? So then
he's in the empire.
I mean, yeah.
He's operating under.
Yeah. That's y'all's empire. Like, that's yours. So what empires do is they build things in their image, right? That's expanding it. So that's what Nebuchadnezzar did. He built a thing into his image. Daniel was like, I'm not made in that image. I can't bow to it. That's not my image. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm part of another kingdom. Like, I'm made into that. And I think that that's like played out in them asking Jesus, like, yo, should we pay taxes to Caesar? He's like, show me the money. Empires make stuff in their image. He's like, yo, this coin is in your image. Whose coin is that? Well, give it to him. That's his. And then so the sentence missing is like, well, if you render to Caesar what's Caesar's and you render to God's what's God's, well, whose image? The coin is made in the image of Caesar.
The rest of us.
You made an image of God.
All right.
I'm a part of this. So I'm like, so I feel like that answer of being like, I'm just here, bro. Like, I'm gonna do whatever I gotta do. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's clearly I believe in capitalism. You know what I'm saying? In some ways, buy a t-shirt, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what to tell you. I'm in the ocean, I'm gonna swim, you know? You right? So I'm like, I'm not gonna hang up on stuff like that. Like, oh, is that a secular venue? Like, what are you talking about, dog? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not worried about I'm not worried about that. You know what I'm saying? Is he a Christian rapper or a rapper that's Christian? I don't care. Like, whatever you want. Whatever you want. What's gonna get you to stream it? Whichever one gets you to stream it, that's what I am. Because I don't care. Like, I'm not even, like, I don't need this. You know what I'm saying? All my homies are in Vegas for the Grammys. If I was nominated, I'd be there. But I'm not salty that I'm not. Because it's fine. That's not my kingdom. You know what I'm saying? It's dope. That'd be dope. It's not my kingdom. It's fine. You know what I'm saying? So I think if you understand that, like, if that's the case, then I function on different principles. You know what I'm saying? I'm a throw bones to the homies. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, Empire would tell me, like, you know, don't open your phone. Don't open your contact book because those are your connects. You feel me? Like, and I'm like, I wouldn't be where I was if people didn't open up their phone to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then when that person start taking off, right? Like, y'all probably know it's people that open for me that are stars now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I could be salty about it, or I could be like, no, that's kingdom. You post to carry. That's why you bring somebody up for them to surpass you. That's what we do. Like, what is we doing if not that? You know what I mean? So that's what I'm trying to say is, like, the empire got rules, and it creates things in its own image. And it's gonna continue to replicate that. That's why ain't no difference between Babylon, Medio-Persia. Like, there ain't no difference. It's just an empire. If I'm gonna be different, right, then I'm gonna have to move differently because that means I belong to something else. I'm just not made in that image. And I'm not, listen, call me Belshazzar. It's all right, I don't care. Those are your words. And like we said, since words be words, your words don't have power over me. I know who I am. My name Daniel, homie. Like, but sure, yeah, Belshazzar, it's fine. You know?
I think we need to hear that. We need to hear that the answer isn't just simply escaping the empire, right? Not just simply just being out there, but how can we live under the empire with kingdom principles?
Yeah.
And, you know, for that, I mean, we're just so grateful that we
Thank
feel
you,
like that's been your witness for so many years. And you know, we're going to transition to a time of Q&A here in a little bit. And just want to give you some instructions on your program. When you scan your QR code, you're going to have there's a link there that's going to allow you to submit questions that we'll take from the audience. Those of you who are online streaming this over YouTube, if you click down on the show more in the program details, there'll be a link for you to submit your questions. So we're going to step off just for a minute here and allow you to submit your questions. And while we're doing that, we've got another special performance coming up here for you, okay? All right. Let's give it up.
Your level of depravity is clear for all to see. Once hidden in the shadows is wild in the streets.
in the name of equality. What does that even mean? Outside, the man on a tree, it's not in humanity. You find yourself winning, you find yourself free. I'm sorry, my friend, but it's temporary. Dearly beloved, placed on a hill, let justice roll down. Big is the city, and dim is the light. The travelers go by. Brothers and sisters, bending the knee. How can you claim to be when our level of depravity is clear for all to see? You send up your lambs in the midst of the blood. You open your lips and no one hears. Your level of perfection above everything. Let Zion be redeemed. Despite our level of depravity, you're restoring everything.
Thank you, Nate. That song was really special. Thank you. I've been told that it was inspired by Propaganda's work. My name is Kenya Davis Hayes. I am a professor of history here at CBU, and I will be facilitating this Q&A part of the program this evening. So at this time, I would like to welcome back Dr. Sung, Tae, and Propaganda, as well as another special guest, Dr. Alma Zaragoza-Petty, who is the co-host of the Red Couch podcast with her husband and author, come on down, don't be shy, hey, of the forthcoming book, Chingona, Owning Your Inner Bada for Healing and Justice, which comes this September. Oh, my husband's from Mexico City. I got it. What did I say? September. Girl, we gonna bump it up because we're excited. No, it's in November. I will be reading in a bit a few questions submitted by the audience tonight. But before I do, we wanted to give Dr. Alma an opportunity to share briefly about her work.
Wow.
What is the title? What does the title of your book, Chingona, mean? And what's your main message?
Yeah, so I was actually really excited to name my book Chingona. It's a word that if you know, you know. You know, if you're Latina, if you're a woman and you've been called it, you have been honored. And I feel like I had been called that a lot even before I really believed I was that. And so that's really what my book is about. It's about my own journey into chingonahood, chingonaness, however you want to call it. And it's basically a Spanish term that means, bad ASS. I don't know if I can say the word in this context. But it was about, the book is really about owning my inner badass and what that meant for me as someone who considers herself a believer, someone who considers herself, trauma-informed, and just having gone through a lot of intergenerational like trauma and healing, and coming out of all of that, including the colonization of my people and a lot of our culture, and still coming out of that as a Christian, someone who is about social justice, and someone who just wants to see my community flourish. Also, I see a lot of badasses out here. A lot of chingonas. Yes.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. Again, we're excited about September. I'm kidding.
Yes.
I'll let my publisher know to hurry up.
All righty. That brings us to our amazing question and answer time. I thought that Dr. Sung was going to come up and chat with us a little bit more, but he'll pop up. Are you ready? Our students are beginning to populate this. I'm a historian, so I'm like, technology. But here we go. The first question that we have is, how can we, as the student body of CBU, overcome the systemic or institutional apathy that prevents so much meaningful change from taking place in our university?
Oof. Nice and easy, huh?
Right.
Yeah. I think answer this better than me. You will, I know. But I think there's like two ways. My brain goes to two different places. My brain goes to, your responsibility, like you said, to push the rock forward. And then the understanding that this is only a season of your life. You're gonna graduate and be gone. You know what I'm saying? And if you are taking on your own shoulders the responsibility to move an entire institution that in 4 years you're gonna leave, but you gotta do it. I think that get your degree, fam. You know what I'm saying? So I think part of me is there. You know what I'm saying? Now that being said, everybody is this. It's a collective effort. You know what I'm saying? And in my mind, think of it more as I am playing my part in hopefully influencing something as time goes on, so that I'll pass the baton to right now the high school freshmen, that when they get here, they're not having to cover the ground that I covered, that I've covered that ground to the best that I can, you know what I'm saying? But just knowing that it's a collective effort, you know what I'm saying? And I think sometimes if you're, specifically what you're talking about, like systemic apathy, your very presence oftentimes is the fact that you hear, especially if we're talking like black and brown students, whatever intersection you're in, your presence is already a challenge. You know what I'm saying? So your presence here already speaks loud enough. So in a lot of ways, I'm of the belief that when you bring your full self here to your classes, to your intramurals, to your fun stuff, to your lunch, whatever you doing, play your spades, play your dominoes, you know what I'm saying? Play them outside. You feel me? Throw on that hip hop. Do you bring fully you here? You know what I'm saying? Cook your catfish. You feel me? Bring your menudo. Don't play. Just be fully who you are in your very presence. You know what I'm saying? Already, and that is already a challenge. You feel me? So I think that taking on the roles that you can, asking the question I can, but at the same time remembering that look, dude, this is a season in your life. You You know what I'm saying? And it's not on you, your graduating class. Like, this ain't a movie, you know what I mean? Like, you feel me? Like, you gonna move on and get jobs, and guess what? When you go get your job, you gonna feel that same burden to be like, I'm gonna change this company. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's gonna keep happening, and then you're gonna be like, actually, they're not paying me enough. And then you're gonna go to another job, and I'm gonna change this job. You know, like, listen, like, it's a journey, and to me, I'm like, look, you pushing that rock forward. You feel me? So have a brain that says, I just don't want the people behind me to have to walk a path that I already walked. So let me just get you here. You know what I'm saying? And that's the way I think about it.
I don't know that I have anything more to add. I think that was a great answer. I think I'm just going to say it in a different way, but it's the same thing.
You're going to...
No. I'm serious.
Chingona-splain?
Yes. So Angela Davis has this amazing book called Freedom is a Constant Struggle. And one of the things that I do in my book is I quote a bunch of badass chingonas like her. And specifically that book, I think, talks a lot about what you just said, which is we can't pretend that someone else or imagine that someone else is going to take it up, or that, you know, there will be another time that you're going to do it, or that, you know, there's other things to do, because it's a constant struggle. It's everyone's constant struggle to find that kind of freedom, one in where there's equity, there's justice. And so, yeah, I mean, I just want to reiterate what you said, which is if you don't do it, then the status quo remains no matter where you are. And to me, that is there's just such a big calling. And it's so, you know, as a social justice person, it's so hard to ignore that. Yeah. And I would just say that, you know, if you want nothing to change ever, then yeah, keep kind of not caring and having apathy. Yeah. But if you ever want to have, you know, decolonize the futures that we imagine for each other, then it's time to do the work.
Again, I'm not a tech person. Some of these questions are disappearing into the ether, and I don't know where they're going. I don't know if it's me or the path, but that's all right, because I got it. Another question was, you talk about finding beauty all over the world. You talked about Morocco, you talked about Colombia, but a student wanted to know, how do you find beauty in the mundane? You know, this is a writing center event, and for those of us who write, and I guess from their perspective, the students, writing can get very boring. Sure. They can be very painful sometimes. So how do you find beauty?
Yeah, actually, that's a great question. I wrote, God, it sounds so pretentious. I wrote an album in 2014, and it was called The Crimson Chord, and it's about finding beauty in the mundane. So that whole record is about that, about, again, that thread. That's why it's called The Crimson Chord. So it's like that thread throughout our past that seemed like they were like inconsequential moments, you know what I'm saying? And how if I take a second to really think about those inconsequential moments, oftentimes they're much more consequential than we thought they were. You know, if you've ever had a experienced death, like, you know, a parent or a sibling or somebody you loved, and when you're thinking about that person, usually those fondest memories are when y'all were doing nothing. You know what I'm saying? They were the mundane moments. They were just waiting at the bus stop, or, you know, laughing at some joke that only y'all thought was funny. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's realizing that, like, if you step back, some of your fondest memories are actually very mundane moments. You know what I'm saying? So I think that, like, it's a practice of pointing at them. Oftentimes my wife gets mad at me because, like, I have a way of pointing at a moment, and then now all of a sudden we're out of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, look.
It's not special anymore.
Yeah, because I point at it. I was like, look, we just connected right there. Okay, you know, so, but that came out of that, like, yeah, like that mundaneness of, like, actually any one of these moments that I'm experiencing right now that seem like nothing, probably in a year, I'm like, any one of these could be the thing. And to me, that became exciting, where I was like, yo, like you said, back in that writing center, it's like, look, back in that writing center, look, back in that writing center. And when you on your fourth book, you know what I'm saying, you're gonna be like, dog, I just remember them days, man, just sitting in that thing. And it's like, oh my God, I hated those moments. You know what I'm saying? So I think that it's more of a like, that they're actually more beautiful than you give them credit for. And the way for that to happen, way for you to realize that is to think about the ones in your past. You know what I'm saying? And that's what the idea of the Crimson Core was. Well, go back to your fondest memories. More than likely, they were very mundane moments. Yeah.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Crimson Cord, it's on iTunes. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Stop messing with her moments.
Yeah, I gotta stop messing. I've stopped doing it, but I do it in my head. When she does, I'll be like, oh.
All right. And this question, CBU students are deep. In attempting terraformation of culture, how should we go about convincing the world of some of its faults, including the acceptance of dangerous culture, the corruption of religion, selfish capitalism?
I think a lot of it, yes. Oh, you got jokes now. I think a lot of it, honestly, I think a lot of it has to do with just being it then, like doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I think a lot of ways, like for a lot of us, when you know better when you were shown better. You know what I'm saying? So like you said, I could try to convince you, or I could be like, all right, there's a saying among black people where it's like, yo, everybody can't go. You know what I'm saying? I love you, but I'm not waiting. Everybody can't go. You know what I'm saying? So when you trying to get like, come on, man, I'm trying to tell you, there's a better way. You know what? I'm just gonna go do it. You know what I mean? And I think oftentimes when it comes to that, it's like you have to start. You know what I mean? And once you start, even with the bows you're gonna take, there's like. I'll use my own career as an example. I think in a lot of ways, like I missed out on, please hear this is no shade on nobody. Like, but I'm trying to answer your question. Like, I missed out on a lot of things that if you were gonna go like the CCM route, you should do A, B, C, and D, and I didn't do none of them. You know what I'm saying? Because I wanted to be able to get to 2022 and sit here and be like, nah, fam. I'm not gonna repeat something that I knew was fraudulent from day one. You feel me? So I'm like, I came out the box with Precious Puritans. You know what I'm saying? Like I came out the box being like, yo, this is what I am. This is who I am. This is what I believe. This is the music I do. You know what I'm saying? That means I didn't get booked for Tour A. I didn't get booked for this, you know what I'm saying? But then you fast forward to 2020 with the George Floyd uprising, and I'm seeing lyrics from 2016 on protest signs. I'm like, that's a 4-year-old record. You feel me? So at that point where I was sitting at home being like, dang, man, y'all don't want to take me on tour? You don't want me on your little festival? You know what I'm saying? It's like, now I get to look back and go, but the mark was made. You feel me? So now, like, I don't know how into hip hop y'all in, but when you look at somebody like a No Big Deal or like, the Indie Tribe kids, they calling me like, yo, Prop, like, how did you do? What's going on with this? And so I'm looking at them. They throwing their own festivals now. You know what I'm saying? All of them independent. They don't need no label. And I'm like, so I took those L's. You know what I'm saying? So now I'm looking at them, and I'm like, that's now the norm. What's expected of like young artists and artists of faith to be like, look, man, like, don't book me for your youth group. I'ma sweat them kids out. You know what I'm saying? And I'ma talk about gentrification. You feel me? I'm like, I don't know. Like, rap isn't just for children. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do other things. You know what I'm saying? So like, and the fact that they already accept that about themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like, you ain't got to, like, believe it or not, there was a time I had to answer why my hair was longer than my shoulders. Like, there was a moment I had to answer that. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, what? I thought, like, yo, ask me about substitutionary atonement. You want to ask me about, like, my hair length? Okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, Now that you see how silly that question sounds? It's because people took lumps for that, you know what I mean, to just go be what you expected, what you're hoping the world could be. And you know what? They got critiques on me. There were some things that now these young dudes are like, I like that. I don't know, Prop. That's it's a little millennial-y of you. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, okay, and you know what? Like I said, I just wanted to push the rock further up the road. You know what I mean? So now what is normal to them were things that I had to fight for. So my answer is like, yo, you just have to go do it. You know what I'm saying? And show that it's possible, and then keep people around you that are doing the same things as you. And just like somebody will, like if you're a musician, I see y'all musicians, like, or whatever y'all in, like the truth is somebody will cut a check for you to do what you want. Somebody will cut a check for it. But you from where I'm from, checks have strings. You know what I'm saying? So you got to ask yourself, is this check really worth the strings that come with it? You feel me? But if you want to be, like you said, like that non-predatory capitalism, then I have to be like, I can't accept your check because I know what you calling me to. And I'm like, yes, that means I'm at home. Yes, that means that, like, I'm not playing the arena. But I tell you what, I don't want your arena money because I'm going to owe you something from that. You know what I'm saying? So I just think, again, like, you just have to go do it and make sure you link in with people that understand really what you're doing, you know?
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, this is our last question. When immersing ourselves in other cultures, how should we embrace the discomfort of leaving our breathable environment? In other words, can we understand others without discomfort?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm going to say no. And I'm going to say you're going to have to be uncomfortable, and you're going to have to embrace the uncomfortable. And that's part of growth, and that's part of transformation. Personal transformation cannot happen without uncomfort. And so, you know, one of the things that I think why I'm up here is, you know, part of it is because of my book, right? And joining Jason and the amazing, you know, contributions that he's had and the award that he earned. But I think if I could talk a little bit about this, you know, one of the things that I say even in my book is, so I don't make it comfortable for people. I purposefully didn't translate Chingona because I didn't want it to be another book about, you know, our spiritual healing and my own transformational healing. I wanted it to be specifically about my experience, and I wanted people to be uncomfortable. And so I actually even opened the first chapter talking about why I don't translate any of my words. I'm just like, you're just gonna be uncomfortable. You're gonna step into the shoes of me as a younger Alma when I was reading the books and I didn't know what you were talking about when you were talking about a yacht, because what is a yacht, you know? Or when you were talking about, I don't know, you know, just things that were like not in my own realm of consciousness and what I grew up around. And I am going to talk about hot Cheetos, and that was comfort food for me, and it's going to be there, and it's going to be uncomfortable because it's got zero nutritional content, but that's okay. Like, that was my experience. Those were my comfort things to go to. And I think that, I hope that, you know, my work allows folks to be uncomfortable, because I think that when you start to step into someone else's story and learning from them and kind of being an outsider, there's so much growth that can happen.
Yeah.
You know, and so, yeah, that's what I would say about that. It's just not going to be comfortable, and I think you should embrace that. You should embrace the uncomfortable.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, I would even take it a step further and be like, why is this uncomfortable? What about this moment or this thing is making you feel discomfort, and why? Why is that uncomfortable? For me, that was like stepping in the spaces that were different to me. It became more of a self-reflection, and I'm like, is it because it's not familiar to me? No, it's because I think it's wrong. I think that that's not the way we should be. So I'm like, the discomfort is an indictment on who I am, not on where they are. So then once I started saying that, I was like, that means I have a fixed understanding of what culture, life, human experiences should be, and I get to be the arbiter of it. And if you don't fit that, then I'm comfortable, but I'm discomfort. I'm experiencing discomfort because you're wrong. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that, to me, that was like the catalyst for me to now, like, oh, I crave it. I crave being in spaces like I talked about earlier, being a fish out of water. Like, oh, I crave it. You know what I'm saying? Because I know that there's a part of, again, being fully human, like the well is just gonna tick open a little wider, you know what I'm saying, in whatever experience I'm in, and leaning into whatever that is, you know. Now, granted, like I said earlier, like, maybe for me, it was just one of those day one things, because you move a kid from South Central to Valinda, you know what I'm saying, where you like, I mean, ain't no black people for miles. Like, these are like vatos, you know what I'm saying? Like, you feel me, right? And then, like, not even know the difference. I just found out this kid, Junior, that lived down the street from me, I thought, turns out he's Filipino. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm just like, you know, so I already come from an experience that's already like, it already forced me to do this. You know what I mean? And like we were saying earlier, it's like, well, you find yourself. You find the beauty. You find the joy. You know what I'm saying? So now for me, it's like, yeah, if you're going to actually grow, of course it's uncomfortable. You know what I mean? It's like, that's almost a given, but I'm like, but you should like love it. You know what I mean? And then for me, I do this like challenge for myself to be like how far can I be in a space before I actually feel discomfort? And to me, I'm like, that means I'm growing. Like, if I could walk into something that is unfamiliar, that it's not mine, but I don't feel discomfort, because I'm like, that's their life. You know what I'm saying? Like she said, like, why would I feel discomfort if this Latina, you know, bilingual person is speaking Spanish? That's her language. Like, well, I don't understand what the problem is. You know what I'm saying? You, like, again, you sitting on a train, you see two people speaking in Korean. You nervous? Why? They not talking to you. I don't understand what the problem. Why does that make you uncomfortable? It's power. That's why you feel uncomfortable. It's power. You don't feel like you're in control of the moment. Why you need to be in control of the moment? Let me talk it to you. You know what I'm saying? So to me, it's like, so I'll say that to say, yes, and again, going back to like, when I was saying like your presence on campus, like be your full self, because I think it's what my wife is alluding to is, for so long for us to survive, we had to make ourselves small, because that makes y'all uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying? We don't want nobody to be uncomfortable. So it's like, well, you know, kind of tone it down. Don't be too black. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, keep the hot Cheetos at home. You don't want to, like, you know what I'm saying? Hey, like one thing again in the black community is like, man, y'all, you know, we can't be cutting up in front of them. You know what I mean by them. You know what I'm saying? Don't be cutting up in front of them. You got to, like, behave like, why, dog? Like, man, we always making ourselves small because y'all feel uncomfortable? I'm like, hold up. No. Ask yourself why you uncomfortable. You know what I'm saying? I do. Ask myself why I'm uncomfortable all the time. And I've learned to crave it, you know, and I feel like, again, that's that fully human thing.
We are out of time for questions. I know, we could sit here all day and just ask y'all questions. But from this moment, we want to encourage all of you to stick around a little bit longer, because you're not going to want to miss the last part of this program. CBU's Creative Writing Club will kick us off, but before they do, will you please give it up one more time for Propaganda and Alma.
Child of the sky. The sky and land meet at the horizon, both one and the same, oceans of their own. Land where the waves are golden grain, the sky swimming with stars at night and clouds in the day. My town takes its name from the 5 great dams along the river. On the horizon, dots of towns and small cities form the outline of home. 4 hours southeast is a short drive to Billings. The same drive north lays Shelby. As the thunderstorm rolls in, laughter merged with roaring thunder, spinning in the warm summer rain. Lightning became the camera flashes that signaled the capture of a memory. I remember the way the river flowed after such a storm, coming back to life, carving into land. The sky watched me grow up, promised to keep my secrets and dreams of a little girl becoming a woman. Now I'm in my 20s, my place in the world has shifted. The sky no longer swims with stars, but rather skyscrapers with their glistening windows. Concrete towers built to be closer, yet we are further than ever before. Very rarely do I look up. Since the buildings form the walls of a maze that I can't navigate, my imagination runs wild, yet I am ruled by late nights, deadlines, anxiety. I miss when the sky was an ocean. I miss seeing the constellations and imagining them spelling the names of my ancestors. The soil under my feet has changed. That has happened many times before, but the sky is still there, reminding me. My roots are not in the ground I stand on. My roots are mapped in the sky that witnessed it all. For my family is scattered across different places and times. Still, we thrived. Now the smog means I can't see those stars. All I see is a void. So I wonder if my secrets are safe. Then I remember the sky has been there long before any of us, and so it will remain.
So let me be the first to say, can't nobody take your place. You really are a special thing, and we need you, so don't listen to the pain. Watch a blessing come thy way. We all have a role to play, and we need you, yeah.
Bella Vista. I wonder what the valleys around my home have seen, what they've been through. Drilled and farmed, house planted, wildfires. I wonder if they're tired. I know I'm tired as I think about the aggression and the stress this recession has brought onto us. Oppressed, depressed, repressed forces us to wonder, man, what's sacred anymore? What about the dirt you spat on before kicking your fellow human to the ground? That soil homed ancestors, it's home to you now. And that person you struck, they're your family, your neighbor. Now you've cracked them down on their dreams and worth, like the oppressors who claimed they're saviors. In these moments, I ask why. Why is there more glittering glass on the streets than there are twinkling stars in the sky? Why do gunshots echo between the valleys like scars? Bullets ripping, ricocheting across the land divided by law that claims who belongs and who owns. Borders are fiction, causing friction, making us forget we all belong, we all have worth, we are descendants of Earth. So why is it from my house I see casino lights blink and arouse deadpan eyes? Why doesn't nature freak when she sees the land? Graffiti on rocks and trees, slurs sprayed across walls and red lines. Love's gone, hate survives.
So let me be the first to say, can't nobody take your place. You really are a special thing, and we need you, so don't listen to the pain. Watch a blessing come right away. We all have a role to play, and we need you, yeah.
Nickel. A homeless woman sits on the side of the road, asking for change, sympathy, and remorse. A wealthy man walks swiftly, swinging a chain watch while goggling at her. He approaches her with a sinister glare, now wishing she disappears. Hoping for validation, she looks up her request to the wealthy man. He responds so sudden, A wealthy man digs out of his pocket a nickel. Throughout generations, homeless people would ask for value. As a remark, they give silver nickels to change perspective for the homeless people. Word nickel, used to degrade, demolish, and segregate the wealth from homeless people. Years of validation never recognized, only jeopardized to a life sentence that's the amount of a nickel. Homeless people begin to fight to demolish separation from wealth and people. Some people sympathize to idolize their morals and reputation and give homeless people freedom to stand like a wealthy man. In response, homeless people reclaim the language nickel to find self-belonging in their communities. They took the word nickel and restricted liberties for others to use. This currency used to lower value of people, now used as recognition within the homeless community, used to remind homeless people their worth in a wealthy neighborhood. The value never changes, but ownership, losing the middleman and targeting themselves. The movement unites the people, but it must be eliminated by the people, from all the people.
So let me be the first to say, can't nobody take your place. You really are a special thing. And we need you, so don't listen to the pain. Watch a blessing come thy way. We all have a role to play, and we need you.
A poem of home. One country, one family, making it one day at a time. One home, bought with a lot of bedrooms for the kids, but only one is filled. A living room that no one's living in. I go to the garden where my sister and I left our marks in wet cement. Her name is carved into our home like it is my memory, but we come around this dinner table, even with an empty chair. We're brought together by the smell of mom's food and the sound of the clanging walk. Every day, we work on rebuilding this home with the love that first brought it to life. Just like this country. See, my home is one of many in America. Here, you say you're seeing things, and they hear crazy. You say depression, and they hear lazy. I hope my generation learns what it means to hope before we learn what it means to get used to this, before everyone has lost someone to mental illness, before we get used to America as a place where looking happy is more important than being happy. But maybe we can learn to be okay with people seeing us at our worst. Maybe next time we see a human struggling, we listen instead of just trying to get them back to work. Maybe then we can focus more on healing by talking about how we're feeling.
So let me be the first to say, can't nobody take your place. You really are a special thing. And we need you, so don't listen to the pain. Watch
wow!
Come thy way. We all have a role.
Amazing!
And we need you.
Yeah, world was so lonely, isolated socially. Every last one of us struggled to keep our hopes up. Hard to feel special when ain't nobody checking on you. Say your last goodbyes with loved ones on FaceTime. Down tyranny, hearing on conspiracies. Life through the looking glass. Wonder what the mirrors see. Death of democracy. Next thing you know, bruh, them white boys storm the Capitol. We all see it coming, bruh. Capping all you frontin', bruh. Sitting in the middle of a global pandemic, man. Is it just a symptom of something we all missing? In our silos, looking for permission. We ain't gotta be good, but I got non-negotiables. All ideas ain't equal, bro. Life, am I right? It's a trip. I don't know if we can come back from this. Maybe you was all alone. Maybe you was stuck at home. Maybe lost a loved one. Or believe something real dumb. Trying not to be depressed. News got you real stressed. Thought it was best that you just leave. But we need you, G.
So let me be the first to say, can nobody take your place. You really are a special thing. And we need you, yeah. So don't listen to the pain. Watch the blessing come thy way. We all have a role to play, and we need you.
Yeah, was your anxiety peaking? Was your ego tripping? Was you frustrated trying to get your family get the picture? Was you struggle waking up in the morning and don't lie? Was you looking in the mirror like, why do I even try? And feel like real life was just a simulation. Joke trying to see what you would do in situation. Scheme say your screen time was up to infinity. Did you lose friends
So
or
let me
gain
be
enemies?
the first to say, can nobody take your place? You really are a special thing, and we
You guys can
need
clap,
you,
right?
we need you. So don't listen to the pain. Watch the blessing come thy way. We all have a role to play.
Give it one more time for us.
First to say, can nobody take your place? You really are a special thing, and we need you, yeah. So don't listen to the
You guys are
pain.
incredible.
Watch the blessing come thy way.
You guys are incredible.
We all have a role to play, and we need you, yeah.
Wow. Y'all make some noise, man, for the poets. Wow. One more time for the home band right here. Wow. Wow.
Hey, listen, let's get that beat again. Let's get that beat again. Let's get that We Need You. Come on. This time, though, you got to know how to feel music, how to feel life. So I'm going to ask everybody, stand up a little bit. We're going to teach you the simplest dance there is. It's a two-step, y'all. So just catch it, there you go. If you bump into the person next to you, you just off beat. That's it. Come on. Just get that. Come on. Hey. There it is. I see you. Now see if you get a clap with it. Come on. Hey, y'all look good, man. All right, let's get that little chorus that we need you. Come on, drop that for us. Let's go. Hey.
So let me be the first to say, can nobody take your place? You really are a special thing, and we need you. So don't listen to the pain. Watch the blessing come thy way. We all
The
have
party
a
has
role
started,
to
y'all.
play,
Let's go.
and
Look at
we
whoever's
need
next to you. Tell them we need you. We need
First
you.
to say.
That's it. What we want to do, let's take a second, keep your groove going, but I want you to find somebody that's right around you, and I want you to tell them one thing that you're going to take out of here with you tonight. Come on, let's do that for 30 seconds. Talk to somebody next to you. What you taking with you tonight? CBU will never be the same, y'all. Never be the same. Hey, Brock, you came and tore the place down. Hey, you brought Dr. Petty with you and made sure it can never be rebuilt. We thank you for that. Listen, has tonight been an amazing night? No. Listen, there were folk who were trying to get in. They couldn't get in. Look at your neighbor, tell him you VIP. You made it in. I walked up, my son was stuck outside. I had to pull the dad card. I got him in. He in here. Listen, tonight, God had an appointment for you. Don't miss what I just said. Tonight, God had an appointment for you. Black, white, red, brown, yellow, or maybe that's just what they told you you are. But there was an appointment for us to be here to say the world as we've been told it is
It ain't even really that. It's what we want it to be. So look at your neighbor, tell him you're a creator. So our job tonight is to leave terraforming. Terraforming. Look at your neighbor, say terraformer. Yeah. We tear down, we have the opportunity to build something brand new, and it starts right here. You would be remiss if you don't make sure that you got that book, Terraform. Matter of fact, right now, take out your phone. Just put something random, just random up in your feed. Get Terraform. Dude, I'm looking at y'all right now. I ain't gonna stop. We ain't gonna leave. Benediction ain't happening till y'all do it. Grab your phone right now, because you ain't gonna do it later. Grab your phone, do it right now. Where your phone at? You sang that beautiful song. Yeah, you ain't got your guitar in your hand. Pull your phone out. Terraform, got to get the book. And then we got a new book that's forthcoming, Chingona. Owning your inner, I'm going to say it for you, your inner badass. On the way to healing and justice. Oh my gosh. I'm excited. I'm ready. I'm ready for somebody to call me a name. If that's what it unlocks in you. So we're excited. We want to make sure that we take the word out of here, y'all, to everywhere else. How many of y'all posted already? Let me see your phone up if you posted already. I see one black brother with his hand up. Everybody else? Okay, I see you. All right. Make sure that we get it out there. We want to make sure we have the book. We want to make sure that others have the book. How many of us know other people who should have been here tonight? Man. So we want to make sure that we carry out. That's what we do as we terraform. We carry the message out and help to make the world a better place. I'm going to ask for us to end with this. But first, Prop, thank you so much for blessing us in being here. Amen. If you in a relationship tonight, y'all saw relationship goals with the two of these right here, okay? Up here today, relationship goals of what's there. To my man, Dr. Tae Sung. Oh my goodness. You got that special sauce, bro. Yeah, that's the dude. To everybody that's here, to all of the sponsors, we thank you. To everybody who came out, we appreciate you. To this house band. And to these creative writers who came forward and showed out. Excellent job, you guys. Can we all end? I want to end not with a traditional benediction. Benediction is generally, we go to the same scripture in the book of Jude. But I want us to walk with something different today. So if you would, just close your eyes and repeat after me. Tonight. Now, say it with your chest, y'all. Tonight. I have been transformed. I have been terraformed. I no longer see the world as I was told it was. I let go of borders, boundaries, limits, worldly definitions. I let go of empires. I embrace kingdom living. Today, I am sharper. I am brighter. I am better because of my time in here tonight. I'm ready to terraform the world. I pray that God blesses all of you. Have a wonderful night. What a great night today.
I'm starting with the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. And no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world the better place, take a look at yourself, then make that change. I'm asking him to change his ways. No message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself, then make that change. Na 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 na. Ah, yeah. Na 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 na.